Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we're diving into a topic that's absolutely fascinating, but honestly, it's kind of terrifying too. We're talking about the history of our vanishing personal privacy. I mean, if you've ever had that creepy feeling that your devices are secretly listening to you, or if you've wondered how an app magically knows you are just thinking about buying a new pair of shoes, well, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to trace the exact chronological history of this, the tech, the laws, the corporate policies. Basically, we're going to see exactly how we arrived at this fully surveilled reality we live in today.
So, here's the big question. How did you lose your privacy without even noticing? It's a serious thing to think about. For most of us, it feels like mass surveillance just sort of dropped out of the sky one day. Like we woke up and bam, our phones are tracking our every step and random companies have massive, detailed profiles of our entire lives. But as we'll see as we go through this explainer today, it definitely did not happen overnight. It wasn't one single catastrophic event. It was this slow, steady erosion. And the craziest part? We actually welcomed it almost every step of the way.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what I mean. You've probably heard the old metaphor, right? If you drop a frog into a pot of boiling water, it's going to jump right out. But if you put that same frog in nice, cool, comfortable water and just turn up the heat degree by degree, well, the water warms up so slowly that the frog never even notices. By the time it's boiling, it's way too late. Guys, we are the frog. For the past 180 years, the temperature has been creeping up, and most of us barely noticed a thing.
Okay, let's dive into Phase 1, the comfortable cool. This covers everything before the 1990s.
Long before the internet was even a twinkle in anyone's eye, the machinery of tracking you was already quietly being built. It wasn't servers, it was paper ledgers and steel filing cabinets. Way back in 1841, a group called the Mercantile Agency started the first systematic tracking of individual credit and personal character. So this is essentially the birth of the modern data broker. Fast forward to 1921, and these credit associations had expanded to 230 cities, building massive archives on the behaviors of millions of everyday Americans. Now, the law did try to keep up with this. In 1965, the Supreme Court case Griswold v. Connecticut established a constitutional right to privacy. It was a huge legal beacon of hope, but honestly, its real-world protections ended up being pretty limited. Then, in 1974, the Privacy Act tried to regulate how the federal government stores and uses your data. Good on paper, but again, mostly just a stepping stone. And through all this, the frog doesn't even know the pot is on the stove. Everything felt totally normal.
Moving right along to Phase 2, the water begins to warm. Welcome to the 1990s. For the frog in our metaphor, this new digital world is just incredible. They're splashing around, having the time of their life, completely unaware somebody just clicked on the burner. The major game changer here was the browser cookie. And no, not the chocolate chip kind. In 1994, Netscape invented this tiny little piece of tech. A browser cookie is just a small file that parks itself on your computer, and its sole job is to report your online habits back to companies. Now, at the time, this was sold as a massive convenience. Finally, websites could remember you. No more logging in every single time you visit a page. But the flip side of a website remembering you is that a website is now following you. The tracking had officially gone digital. So, as personal computers started connecting the entire globe, regulators were completely split on what to do. Over in Europe, they actually sounded the alarm early. In 1995, the European Union issued its first data protection directive because they saw the dangers of digital commerce blowing up. But American companies, they pretty much ignored it entirely. Just 2 years later, in 1997, a huge study found that out of the top 100 most visited websites on the internet, only 17 even bothered to have a privacy policy. And out of those 17, literally 0 met basic standards. We were officially living in the Wild West of personal data.
All right, now for Phase 3, the heat rises. This covers 2001 to 2012. The events of September 11, 2001 changed absolutely everything. Fear became the main driver for a massive, sweeping expansion of government surveillance. And it happened right as the smartphone was making its debut. Just 45 days after 9/11, the Patriot Act passed, giving government agencies these unprecedented powers to monitor calls, emails, and finances, often without a warrant. That exact same year, the first GPS-enabled mobile phones hit the market. Privacy advocates were screaming from the rooftops about the dangers of cell signal tracking, but let's be real, most of us just loved having a map right in our pockets. Then in 2002, the Pentagon proposed Total Information Awareness, which was this wild scheme to link up travel, credit, medical, and email records,
Public backlash killed the official program, but a lot of its pieces just kept quietly running in the background. Then in 2008, the FISA Amendments Act created Section 702. This allowed the NSA to collect foreign communications, but it ended up vacuuming up an enormous amount of everyday American data just as incidental collection. By 2012, your phone, your browser, your credit card, and your government were all building massive files on you. And the craziest part? Almost nobody knew. Which brings us to Phase 4, the boiling point, 2013 to today. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that this is when the frog finally feels the heat, but it's way too weak to jump out. Mass surveillance wasn't just a hidden program anymore, it had become the actual infrastructure of our society. In 2013, the public got a massive wake-up call when Edward Snowden leaked classified NSA documents. He essentially exposed the giant digital magnifying glass hovering over all of us. These documents revealed secret programs with names like Prism and Upstream. They showed without a shadow of a doubt that the internet activity and phone records of millions of totally innocent people worldwide were being scooped up in bulk. No individual warrants, just a massive, sweeping collection of our digital lives. Now, people did try to fight back in the courts. In 2018, we saw the Carpenter v. United States Supreme Court ruling. The court said, hey, police actually need a warrant if they want to get your long-term location history from your cell phone carrier. On paper, this was a huge, genuine victory for privacy rights. But in reality, it was incredibly short-lived. Because, as we'll see in just a second, government agencies simply found clever loopholes. They figured out how to get that exact same location data without even needing to ask the phone carriers at all. And while the laws were stalling, the tech just kept getting more aggressive. In 2021, investigative journalists blew the lid off the Pegasus project. Pegasus is this military-grade spyware sold by an Israeli company, and it was used to secretly infect the phones of journalists, activists, and even heads of state across 45 different countries. It was a massive wake-up call that absolutely no one's personal device was safe from a targeted attack. But then, in 2024, the reauthorization of Section 702, also known as RISA, took things even further. It expanded surveillance powers way beyond targeted spyware. It actually allowed the government to compel everyday IT workers and data center staff, basically anyone with physical access to internet infrastructure, to assist in surveillance. It cast an impossibly wide net. Let's move to our final section, the result, a fully surveilled reality.
The pot is now at a full, rolling boil. We've spent 180 years adding degree after degree of heat. So what does here actually look like today? Well, to really grasp how you're being tracked, you absolutely have to understand this one word: metadata. A lot of people think, hey, my messages are encrypted, nobody's listening to the actual audio of my calls, I'm safe, right? Wrong. Metadata is information about your communications. It's who you called, exactly when you made the call, and for exactly how long you spoke. And honestly, that's all they need. With just that data, analysts can map out your entire social circle, they can predict your future behavior, your political leanings, your health issues, and even how financially vulnerable you are. They don't need to hear a single word you actually say to know exactly who you are.
So the crucial point is, this is what it feels like to be boiled. Right now, your smartphone is recording your location every few seconds. That data gets packaged up and sold to data brokers, who turn around and sell it to advertisers, and most importantly, they sell it to law enforcement agencies. Remember that 2018 Supreme Court ruling we just talked about, the one requiring a warrant? Yeah, agencies just completely bypass it by buying your location data straight from these commercial brokers. Your entire social graph is mapped out using that metadata, and the heaviest blow of all here, surveillance isn't just a tool used on criminals anymore. It is quite literally baked right into the infrastructure of every single app, device, and platform we interact with. Opting out doesn't just mean deleting an app off your home screen. At this point, it means opting out of the modern world completely.
The frog never jumped. And it never jumped because every single degree of temperature increase felt just a little too small to matter at the time. A new credit agency in 1841, a helpful little browser cookie in 1994, a super convenient GPS map in 2001. Now, the water is rolling at a heavy boil. We've traced the heat from that comfortable cool all the way to a fully surveilled reality. So the only question left for us to ask is this: will we notice in time to actually do something about it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. I really hope it gave you a totally new, maybe slightly unsettling perspective on that device sitting right there in your pocket.